Hey everybody, Jeremy here from Nobot Studios. I'm back again with another Grit Fantasy RPG video. Today's topic will be the Story Builder. Now this is something that I wanted to get to for a long time because I think it's one of the coolest things in the book. I know it's this kind of understated page of tables kind of set halfway through the book, but it is a very useful tool for GMs. For creating very quick scenarios for your games, and especially that Grit is made for, one-shots, short arcs, and convention games. This is an ideal tool to use in that situation where you don't have a lot of time to prep and you want to put something fun together for your group. You just use these tables and they just churn out these really cool creative ideas for your scenarios. Ryan has used them extensively. He is the editor of Grit and has played tons of Grit, and also his kids have used this, so they're useful for all ages, the builders. There are 4 of them in the book, but today I'll just be talking about the Story Builder because I think that's pretty much the main builder in the book. So I'm going to just move forward here in the book. On the left hand side here, I've got the PDF pulled up, and I'm going to go to kind of the first section that it's mentioned, and this is in the optional rules. What I wanted to, when I was developing the book, I wanted to put stuff in for the GM section that wasn't telling you how to do things or, giving you a specific structure to follow, because I think I want this to be DIY. I want you guys to kind of come up with how you want to create these games. But I want to give you tools that will help you along the way to kind of aid your process. So I put a little blurb in the optional rules because the builders are optional. You don't have to use them for Grit games. So I just put this out. It's called, it's just titled Use the Builders. In this book, you will find 4 table-driven generators called builders. They are optional tools you can use to quickly create basic story structures, encounters, NPCs, and custom monsters. They have been put in the book to help get your creative juices flowing. Some tables will have multiple options available that simply require you to either choose one or roll randomly. So the whole idea behind these builders is just to set you up with these narrative tags that will get your creative juices going. These are just a spark of that creative energy for your games. So it's not telling you have to follow any of these specifically, but it's just to put these things together in a way that will kind of get your ideas flowing for your session notes. So I'm going to scroll to the main page for the Story Builder, and this is on page 49 of the book. And Ryan had recently mentioned that page 49 is the one he uses the most in the book, because the game is so minimal. You don't really have to access the rules very often in gameplay, but when you're prepping, the Story Builder always comes up. At least for me, I use it constantly. Okay, so this reads, this set of tables is designed to create a simple underlying story concepts for you to build upon. For random story concept, roll on all 5 tables to quickly generate descriptions for plot, terrain, location, detail, and event. Again, this is one of the most exciting things in the book, even though it's super understated. And I have to say, this isn't specific Grit thing. You could use this for any other game out there if you wanted to. It works very well for Grit because Grit is designed for these short games. But if you're looking to run a one-shot in 5e or ICRPG or Dragonbane, whatever it is you're playing out there, you could use these tables as well, easy enough, because it really is system agnostic. I mean, you could plug this into anything. So anyway, so the first one is plot, and that's like just the main, the plot of the game or session, and that's kind of the big one. So all these tables are going to be a D20, except the last one is a D12. So you roll a D20, you get one narrative tag, and then you move on to the next one, terrain. And terrain is just basically the main, area, the main type of terrain you're going to find in your game, right? So, for instance, tundra, jungle, or a desert, right? Location is a bit more specific, so it's number 3. So this will give you a place within the terrain, right? So like a hideout or a bridge or a shipwreck or tunnels, it could be any one of those things, but that just, so, these first 3 just give you a good structure to work upon for what the plot is and where it is, basically. So, and then the next page, page 50, you get into detail. So with these and with all the builders, it's a D20 roll, and then there's like columns. So you could either roll the D20 and pick one on that line, across the rows, or you could just roll a D4 in this instance because there's 4 columns, and that's what I end up doing is just rolling a D20 plus a D4, and it gives me whatever I need out of the list or the table. And the last one is just an event, and that is something that's going on either up front or kind of in the background of your game. So this could be a wandering horde, or weird sinkholes, or a stolen artifact, or random tremors, just something that gives you a little bit more action that's happening in the game. And so, that just adds that extra level of detail. So with these 5 tags, you get a nice little setup that you can work off of. And you'll be surprised how easily this kind of flows and gets your ideas going. It just over and over again really turns out some great stuff. And I have to say, it creates ideas that you may not ever think of, because it gives you these random sets of concepts. It just puts together some things that may not work well together, and it makes you think, well, that kind of could be cool because it doesn't work, as far as what you would think it would be. So yeah, it gives you these really cool things. So what I thought I would do is at least do one rollout of one of these. So I'm going to grab my actual dice, and I'm going to roll out some stuff here, and we're going to put a session together real quick, or just some narrative tags for a session. Okay, so I'm just going to say I'm running a one-shot tonight. I've got 2 hours to prep. And, if you use these builders, you could technically do it. I've done it in a half hour with tokens and maps and everything. But I think an hour would be a good amount of time for prepping if you're using these builders, to give you enough time to put maps and tokens together. Because I spend more times on the tokens and maps than I do with anything else. So, okay, let's begin. I'm just going to roll out the plot here and see what I come up with. So I have rolled out number 3, and that is survival. All right, so I got survival, and I think I'm going to highlight this actually. And okay, and then I'm going to roll on terrain. Let's see where we're going to be here. Number 8, foothills. All right, so we've got survival in the foothills. And another thing too about these, you can just pick if you want. You don't have to roll. This is just ideas, you know. So like if something really is you're drawn to more for something, you can just pick from the list. This is just, you know, to give you ideas. Okay, so location, what I'm going to do is roll a D20 and a D4. So 1 and 2 will be the first column, 3 and 4 will be the second column. So I rolled a 12 on the D20 and a 2 on the D4. So that puts me at Labyrinth. Okay. Labyrinth. Okay, so I've got a survival game in the foothills with the labyrinth involved. Okay. Already that's giving me some ideas here. Okay, so let's do the detail. So I'm going to roll a D20 and a D4 again. And these details, you could add 2 or 3 if you wanted to. It's all on what you want to do. So I rolled a 3 and a 2. So I've got old scarecrows. That's interesting. Or odd scarecrows. Sorry, misread it. Odd scarecrows. And what that brings to mind is, what are they trying to scare away? And what are they made out of because they're odd? So maybe this is some kind of corn maze, right? Like a cornfield maze, and there's scarecrows in the cornfields. That makes sense to me. Okay, and then the last one, event. I'm going to roll a D12 and a D4. I got a 2 and a 2. So I've got unearthed relics. All right, so I've got survival. I've got foothills. I've got labyrinth. I've got odd scarecrows and unearthed relics. So maybe, you know, they're like these relics, maybe artifacts are buried within this corn maze, right? Maybe those relics are traps or something that are buried. Who knows? And maybe these scarecrows are some kind of creepy creatures. The characters need to get through this labyrinth and survive these scarecrows, and perhaps run into these relics on the way that help them. So already you can kind of see that this just immediately creates these interesting ideas, you know, for your games. Yeah, and so that just gives you 5 little things to work with. And then you just go from there. Just you could go into the next builder, which I want to cover that kind of separate. I want to do all these builders separately. But the next one is the encounter builder. So if you wanted to kind of build out what was happening from here in more of a random way, the encounter builder just sets up like what monster is, what's the main monster that's involved, what are they doing, what kind of shape are they in, what's their mental status, and some other kind of event that's going on related to them. So, but I'll go over that later. I just wanted to show you the story builder, because I think the story builder is one of the best things in the book, and by far. And I know it may be something you just scroll through and not think about it much. But if you want to set up your games quickly and come up with some really cool, interesting concepts in your games without a lot of work or prep, you could do it. And I have to say too that I've used this so much, and at this point in time, I can roll this out and just have these tags written down, and just like a few monster stats, and I'm good to go. Like, I don't need a lot of stuff to run a game. So this is a great thing to do. Please use it if you have the book and if you're running games. It's just a really fun thing to use. So anyway, this is a really quick video. I just wanted to go over this and put the shout out for it because it is very useful and I think you will enjoy it. So thank you for listening and watching this video, and look out for my other videos that I'm going to do. I may run these out pretty quick here with the builder. So yeah. So anyway, if you're playing the game, thank you. If you purchased the game, thank you. If you haven't seen the game before, look up Grit Fantasy RPG. It is on DriveThruRPG. You can get a PDF, you can get a softcover or hardcover, and reasonably priced, and you get a lot of game for pretty good price. So anyway, take care of yourselves, guys, and happy gaming, and roll those dice.